And I've even received some pushback where some people felt that, and again, my work is not for everyone. Some of it, I don't claim that it's completely like Islamic, so I'm not going to try and paint that brush. But even like the picture at the back of the book, so just for benefit of people looking, right? So it's a picture that was taken in the I think the late 19th century, of a North African couple, and I was told by two people that that's a vulgar and explicit photo that is, promoting fawahish, like promoting
Yeah.
zina and infidelity. So I know that people have got a lot of reservations, especially I've noticed some Muslims from certain backgrounds, predominantly from South Asia. I'm just wondering. So that's why normally I wouldn't, and I don't force my work or try and push it on people because, again, people have got different tolerance levels.
Yeah.
And even to say the word, for some people, sex, they see it as inappropriate. They'll prefer to
Yeah.
use the word marriage, I mean, intimacy. Now, one of the issues with sometimes I think it's important to be quite clear what you're speaking about. If you were to say intimacy, because it's a euphemism, it can mean intimacy as in sexual relations, and it could be intimacy meaning closeness and not
Of course.
necessarily something related towards sex. And for me, especially again for people who are Muslims or people are learning the deen, even if you read the basic books of fiqh, they speak about like you need to understand even whether you're married or not married, you need to understand janaba, you need to understand, if you have a wet dream, there's all of these rulings as sex related rulings
Yeah.
whether you're sexually active or not. So you need to even know your anatomy. Both men need to know their male anatomy, and women likewise need to know their female anatomy to understand even after menses are different when they can pray again. So this is clearly documented. So that's why for me, I would have expected Muslims to be the most sexually educated from a relatively young age, because if you're being exposed to these texts and you have to learn about these things, which again is very explicit, without being vulgar, then you have a sense of maturity with this subject, you
100%.
know.
And you
And,
see that. Sorry, go ahead.
and I'll just the last thing I'll say before you comment is even I think I've noticed like some of the translations of even some verse of the Quran. So even we know, like for example, like if you were to ask people, okay, the way Allah describes the believers in relation to sexual matters, tell the believing men قُل للمؤمن يغضوا من أبصارهم, to lower their gaze, and the next part ويحفظوا فروجهم. It's always often translated, told the believing men to lower their gaze and guard their modesty or guard their chastity.
Yeah, yeah.
When the actual literal translation, guard their private parts.
Mm.
Furuj is the plural of farj, whether it's penis or vagina.
Yeah.
So even the language of the Quran, it's not vulgar, of course, we know that. But even the language of the Quran, the language of the Prophet ﷺ in the Hadith, when they're referring to the number of sexual related, it's quite explicit in terms of using describing speaking about the genitalia. But when it's been translated, I've noticed it's been translated where it's given maybe the intended meaning, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. But then people, for example, a lot of Muslims are so obsessed with like the concept of modesty and the way
Mm.
a woman dresses, anything to do with like sex or it's like okay, we can't even talk about that. And then to the point where people do not even understand what some of the verses of the Quran is talking about.
100%, 100%. You hit the nail on the head there. I think this obsession with modesty, and I do think it's a colonial trait that's just been passed on and absorbed by the South Asian Muslim community. I don't know, maybe the same thing exists in the Arabs to the same extent or a different extent, but it's been passed on, and you can see it even when it comes to, for example, when a woman is on her menses and it's Ramadan, she's not supposed to fast. She can eat freely, but certain cultural Muslims in the South Asian background, they'll be like, she has to maintain an appearance of fasting in front of the men so that they don't know she's on her menses, because the menses is to do with her private parts, and just thinking about it is wrong. Like, so with that mentality, a woman has to hide her menses from men. So she has to act like she's fasting. She has to act like she's praying. Like if everyone stands up to pray, she has to stand up and pray with them. And I've seen this. This happens today. So and me and my
Oh,
wife
no,
laugh
we
about
lost
it.
you there, Khidr. Oh
Sorry.
no.